Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin and this is my Gold Award. For my Gold Award, I decided to do traveling tips and tricks for senior citizens, and this is actually the second part of my Gold Award. For the first part, a couple of weeks ago, I did a presentation at my local rec center for the senior citizens in my town to come and watch this presentation live so that they can get some of their traveling tips and tricks that they might want. But for the rest of it, I'm doing this video so that anyone across the world can watch this video if they want to learn some tips and tricks. So let's get started. The title of my project is You Can Do It, Traveling for Seniors. So you may be asking yourself, why travel? So there are really many benefits to traveling for senior citizens, and as you get older, it can help improve your mental, emotional, and your physical health. So some studies have found that for women who only vacationed every 6 years, were at a higher risk of heart disease than people who traveled more often. Another study of middle-aged men showed that if they were at high risk of any heart diseases, they were less likely to suffer from and especially die of heart disease the more frequently that they traveled. So some of these studies have come to the conclusion that possibly this is because when you go on vacation, you get a break from any stress that may be happening in your everyday life. Traveling also involves a lot of physical activity and exercise, so again, it can help lower your risk of any heart diseases, high blood pressure, and strokes. Another study had showed that 86% of people said that because of traveling, they found that their mood has been a lot better and they've been a lot happier than they have been in the past before vacationing. So traveling is not only fun, but it's also really great for you. So the first question that everyone wonders is, when should I go on my vacation? And I would definitely recommend going anywhere between April through mid-June and September through October, because during those times the weather isn't as hot or cold as it may get, and it's also not as crowded during those times because children are in school, so families are less likely to go on vacation during those times. Another thing to consider is what to pack, and first, of course, you must pack your ID and your passport, because you're just going to need those things when you're traveling. You also should definitely pack comfortable walking shoes. Even if you don't think you're going to be walking a lot, comfortable shoes are definitely a must-have because you could end up walking more than you think. It's also important to bring a light jacket because even if you're traveling someplace that you don't think is going to be cold, there might be a cold front and you don't want to be left without a jacket. You want to make sure that you can have a jacket if you need it. Even if you just go to a restaurant, it might be cold and you might need a jacket. And also, a really great thing to pack are extra contacts or glasses. You can easily just lose a contact or rip it, and glasses can easily break. So it's really important to have backups in case any of that happens so you can see. Also, make sure to bring sunscreen. Again, even if you don't think it's going to be sunny, bring the sunscreen anyway because they might end up having a really hot front. A perfect example, a couple of years ago, my mom and I went to London, which is known to be very cloudy and rainy, and we didn't bring sunscreen. I didn't use any sunscreen. As you can see, I'm a redhead, which thereby I burn very easily. Of course, while we were there, it was over 100 degrees and I got burnt. So bring sunscreen even if you don't think you're going to need it. Another really great thing to bring, especially if you're traveling abroad, is plug adapters because in different countries, they don't always use the same plugs that we do. So you don't want to be stuck with a dead phone or a dead camera, so make sure to bring the plug adapter so you can charge anything that you need. And also, another great thing to bring are extra hearing aid batteries if you have a hearing aid, because especially, once again, if you're traveling abroad, they don't have the same batteries that America has, so you want to make sure to have backups just in case your hearing aid dies. Also, bring medication, well, obviously, but bring enough for not only your trip, but for extra time in case your flight gets delayed or canceled and you end up needing more of your medicine than you brought, and if you don't have it, then that's kind of a problem. Also, make sure to bring the original bottles with their prescription in case of any emergencies and you have to go to the hospital. A doctor will need to be able to see exactly what you're taking and how much of it you're taking. It's also really important to pack lightly, especially as a senior citizen, because you're going to have to be moving around your suitcase a lot. Even if it's just a place that you're driving to, you're still going to have to be able to get your bags in and out of your car. So it's definitely easier to just do laundry on your trip rather than having to carry around a 50-pound suitcase everywhere. So for health, if you're traveling outside of the country, make sure you get any vaccines that are necessary for where you're going. And it's important that you visit your healthcare provider at least a month in advance to get any of the vaccines you need or to go over any special health considerations. So another great thing to do is visit the government website because they'll have any important information on the place you're traveling. Say if there's like a disease going around, it'll let you know on that website. You can also enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, which allows you to be registered at the nearest U.S. Embassy in case of any emergencies. America then knows where you are and will be able to help you if necessary. So for travel insurance, make sure that you check with your insurance carrier to see what is covered when you're outside of the country, because just because it's covered here does not necessarily mean it's going to be covered if you leave America. Also, when you're checking for travel insurance, also look for evacuation insurance, which if there's a really big emergency, say you're on a cruise and a helicopter needs to come and transport you out, the evacuation insurance is what's going to cover that. If you don't have that, that can get very expensive, so make sure you have that just in case. For a passport to travel, you should allow 4 to 6 weeks if it's just a standard turnaround time, but if you're going through expedited time, you only need to allow 2 to 3 weeks. So a really great option is using a passport card, which is slightly cheaper than a passport book, except you're only allowed to use it for land and sea crossings. So if you want to go to Canada, Mexico, Bermuda, or the Caribbean, then you can use a passport card. Everything else though, you need a passport book. So like I said, a passport book is required if you want to travel like by air internationally. They must be applied for in person if it's your first time getting a passport, but if it's just a renewal, then it has to be done by mail. They require the correct form and support documents, so you need proof of citizenship and your ID, and there's also a photo fee for when you get your passport. So in Union County, which is my area, the 2 places that you can go are in Elizabeth and in Westfield. In Elizabeth, there's the Union County Courthouse, and in Westfield, there's the Colleen Fraser Building. And both of them offer the photo service for $10. If you don't live in Union County, all you have to look up is where can I get a passport in my area, and you'll be able to find where the nearest one is to you. So for specifically air travel now, for booking a flight, a really great website to use is kayak.com because it allows you to compare the prices of different airlines to each other. It's usually cheapest to travel midweek because most of the time people are working and they aren't able to travel during that time. But if you're a retired senior citizen, then that's a really great time to travel. Also, AARP Advantage's website can give deals to its members, so it can give you discounts on flights, hotels, rental cars, and tour packages. So again, for booking a flight, kayak.com will give you recommendations as to whether to book now or to wait. So if they tell you to wait, then chances are the prices are going to go down. But if they tell you to book now, then chances are the prices are going to go up. And you can also sign up to get these alerts as to when the prices are best. So for international travel, it's best that you start looking for a flight 9 to 12 months in advance because especially for international, the flights can get very expensive. So you want to make sure to book it as soon as possible because that's usually when they're cheapest. Another great option is to look into open jaw or multiple city flights. And that's where you can fly into one city. So say I'm doing a tour of Europe. I can fly into Paris and then fly out of London. And it's very important to try to book that as a round trip as opposed to 2 individual flights. Because if you do 2 individual flights, it can get very expensive. It's definitely a lot cheaper to just book a round trip. In regard to getting to the airport, there are several options. First, you can drive and park yourself. It's usually more convenient to park at an off-site lot as opposed to the airport parking lot, because they shuttle you directly to your terminal and they help you load and unload your luggage from their shuttle. There's a website called longtermparking.com which offers coupons to lower your rates to $7 to $8 per day. And so just as a comparison, long-term economy parking at Newark Airport is $18. So it can lower the price $10 to $11 a day, which is a lot in the long run. Another good option is a taxi, or you can take a train. The New Jersey Transit has a Newark Airport stop, and from there you can use an air train to get to any of your terminals. The downside of this option, however, is that you have to be able to lug your suitcase on and off the train, which can get very exhausting, and there's just a lot of moving around. So although it is an option, I wouldn't recommend it as one of the best options. You can also use an app called Uber, or you can use Lyft. And these are really great apps that you can download, and they're usually cheaper than a taxi, but that's what they're like. They're very similar to a taxi. And when you open the app, you can see where you are and all of the cars that are around you that would be available to pick you up. And you can also see the price before booking, which is really convenient because if you don't want to spend too much, you can see how much it is. If you don't have a smartphone though, you can always go to a website called gogograndparents.com, which can let you use Uber or Lyft even though you don't have the app. So for people with disabilities, you can go to accessibility.uber.com, and they're trying to get more handicap friendly, so there's not that much information on it yet, but they're trying to work on it, so you can always go to that website if you'd like more information. And finally, for getting to the airport, you can always just ask a family or friend to drop you off because they're usually very willing to do so. My uncle does it for my family and I all the time, and it's also really great because family and friends are free, so they're a really great option as well. So luggage and ticketing considerations. You can always check in and print your ticket at home, and if your fare allows it, you should definitely try to book your seat in advance because if you don't, you're most likely going to end up in a middle seat between two strangers that you don't know, and especially if it's a long flight, you don't really want to do that. Many airlines will allow you to check in and drop off your luggage at the sidewalk, which is really convenient because then you don't even need to bring your suitcase into the airport. It's already gone once you're dropped off. And although it's free, there's usually a small fee for a tip because, you know, you gotta tip the people that help you, but that's usually not very large. Also, if you print your ticket at home, you can go directly to the bag drop line, so you get to skip a whole extra line, which is great. But you really wanna make sure that your bag is within the size and weight limits. Most airlines have a weight limit of 50 pounds, and you really want to make sure that your bag weighs 50 pounds because if it's more, it could be like $200 that you have to pay in order to get your bag on the flight, and you don't want to pay $200, so make sure it's within the weight limits. Also, if you have an older suitcase, I would definitely recommend buying a newer suitcase because they are much lighter now. I had an older suitcase and it weighed 18 pounds when it was empty. Recently, I just bought a new suitcase and it's bigger than the old one and it only weighs 8 pounds. It is so light, and then you have 10 extra pounds worth of clothes or souvenirs that you can pack. So I would definitely recommend getting a newer suitcase. You may also want to remove any previous luggage tags that may be on your suitcase because otherwise it might get mixed up and sent to the wrong airport, which would be very bad because then you won't have any of your things. So make sure to remove any previous tags so that it doesn't get mixed up. Also, keep any of your valuables with you. Even if you use a lock on your suitcase, it really won't help if someone wants to get in your suitcase. If they want to get in, they're going to find a way to get in. If you do want to use the lock, however, make sure it's TSA approved because if it's not, then they're just going to take it off anyway. Also, if you're traveling internationally, chances are they may cut it off anyway. A great option to use instead of a lock is a zip tie because those have the same effect except they're very cheap. So if it does get cut off, it's not really a big deal. You can get it at any home improvement store. But if you use this option, make sure you keep a pair of scissors outside of the place you locked it because if you lock the scissors inside where your suitcase is locked, then you won't be able to open your suitcase and get anything. So medical supplies, equipment, and mobility aids and any assistive devices do not count against your limit of having one carry-on and one personal item. For navigating the airport, if you can walk, then that's really great. Just follow the signs to get to your gate. But if you need any assistance, airlines are required to allow you to use a free wheelchair or scooter. When you book your ticket, you want to call your airline provider in advance in order to make sure that a wheelchair will be available to you on the day of your flight. But if you don't call that day, you should at least make a request 48 hours in advance so they will know. If there are sky caps at the curb, then you can also request any wheelchair from there to get you through security and to your gate. After you check in, you can also make arrangements to have a wheelchair ready for you either at your layover or at your final destination. If you're traveling with your own wheelchair or scooter, check with your airline to see how far in advance they want you at your gate. If it's a motorized vehicle, they'll usually want you there 45 minutes in advance, and if it's non-motorized, they'll usually want you there 30 minutes in advance. Just make sure you get there on time. A gate pass can also be obtained for anyone who's assisting the person with the special needs. If you have any mobility aids or devices or any medical equipment, you're going to want to let the airline know in advance because TSA will have a special screening ready for you. If you have a pacemaker or any other medical equipment on the interior or exterior of your body, that's also really important to check with your doctor to make sure it's safe to go through the metal detectors. If it's not, then again, TSA will make special arrangements in order to screen you still. Passengers who are 75 years and older are able to leave on shoes and light jackets while going through security. And if you're in a wheelchair and are unable to stand, then they will again do a different screening so that you don't have to get up. So in your carry-on, if you bring any liquids, make sure it is at no greater than 3.4 ounces. If it's greater than that, then they will throw it out. Even if it's just a new perfume you bought or something like that, it will be thrown out, so make sure that you don't have any liquids that are above that size. Also, any medications that you have should be with you in your carry-on luggage or your purse or something in case you need to take your medication that night, or if your checked suitcase gets lost, then you won't have your medication, which is really not good, so just make sure to keep it with you at all times. If you're a frequent traveler, a really great option for you is to apply for TSA PreCheck, and it's $85 for 5 years. And with this, you're able to go in a faster line. You can leave your shoes on, your jacket, your belt, you can leave laptops and liquids inside of your bag, and it's just a much more convenient option as to the regular security line. Sometimes they close the TSA PreCheck line, but if they do that, then that usually means the regular security line is shorter and you still have all of the benefits to the TSA PreCheck in the regular line because the people will be able to see that you have it. Once you're on the plane, in order to avoid getting any blood clots in your legs, make sure that you maybe take a trip to the bathroom or even just circle your feet once in a while in order to keep the blood circulating. Another really great option for that is using compression socks, which you could get from Travel Socks or Rejuva. So for supplemental oxygen, every airline has its own policy for the onboard oxygen transportation and use. So for your personal supplemental oxygen, it will have to undergo a screening just to make sure you're not trying to sneak anything in through that. And if your doctor says it's okay to disconnect, then that's really great. They'll do their normal screening. But if it's not, then again, an alternate inspection will happen. So some special considerations when traveling to Europe. First, money matters. It's important to check if any of your credit cards charge for foreign exchange transactions. And most cards will charge a 3%. But some of the cards that don't charge are the Southwest Visa Premier Card, the Capital One Venture Card, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and Bank of America Travel Rewards. So if you really don't want that extra 3%, then I would recommend getting one of those cards. Discover is nearly unheard of Europe, so if you only have a Discover card, it would definitely be a smart idea to get another card because almost nowhere accepts it. Another one that's rarely accepted is American Express, so if you have one of those two cards, definitely get a new one. Visa and MasterCards, however, are widely accepted around Europe, so Visa and MasterCards are definite good go-tos. Also, in advance, you should call your credit card and your debit card company to let them know that you're traveling abroad, because if you don't, then they'll think your account is hacked or someone stole your PIN and that it's not you, and your card will be denied and you won't be able to buy anything. Also, for cell phone use, you should call ahead and make a plan. Many different services have their own special plan for international travel, and you always want to do so ahead of time, because if you don't, you can end up paying an exorbitant fee. So when you're in a store and if a merchant asks if you want the convenience of seeing your price converted, always say no, because it's going to be a bad exchange rate and you're going to end up paying more than you actually have to. This is called dynamic currency conversion, and like I said, it will give you a bad exchange rate. In regard to traveler's checks, they aren't really used anymore, and it's important to get cash from an ATM when you first arrive at an airport because they're going to give you the local currency. Also, try to find a bank ATM as opposed to an independent ATM, such as Travelex, Cashzone, and Moneybox. Again, those won't give you the right transition. They're going to charge you a little more. Also, check with your bank to see if any fees are applied, and credit unions usually have low to no fees, so if you're able to do that, then that's really great. So for safety in Europe, always guard your money and valuables, especially if you're in a larger European city where pickpockets are common. You never want to store your wallet or phone in your back pocket because that is a really easy place for them to just come and swipe your valuables. A really great option to use is a money belt or an in-clothing money belt, and that's really great because it fits inside of your clothes and no one really should be going in your pants. So that's a really great option to use. And another really great option is a slice-proof fanny pack, which has a cable wire that runs through the belt. So if someone tries to like slice off your fanny pack, then they won't be able to because the cable wire will stop it. Again, so like I said, try to keep everything in front of you so that you can see it. When I'm in Europe, I always travel with my backpack on my front so that no one can really pickpocket you if you're looking. Also, if you're out to eat and it's like an outdoor restaurant, you never want to leave your phone or wallet on the table because they will just walk by and take it with them, and next thing you know, you don't have it. Another thing you don't want to do is hang any bags or purses on your chair because once again, they can just easily walk past you and take your bag without you knowing. What I like to do is I like to put it on the floor right in front of me and wrap my feet through it so that if they try taking it, it would get stopped with my foot. Also, if you're on a subway, you never want to stand too close to any of the subway doors because a lot of times that's where they can easily just come on and off and take your things without you realizing, and then they're just gone. You also don't want to sign any petitions, be distracted by commotion, or engage in any conversation with someone who seems overly friendly because with that, they're trying to distract you and their partner will come and take your things while you're being distracted. So for medical care, in an emergency situation, so like I said, if there's any serious condition such as a stroke or a heart attack or a bad car accident, you want to call an ambulance. And in most countries you can call 112, which is kind of like our 911, so it will reach the police, the ambulance, or the fire department. You will most likely have to pay out of pocket even if your insurance carrier does cover it, but you want to make sure to receive a copy of your bill so that when you get home you can file a claim and get your money back. If you purchase travel insurance as your primary medical care, call the company as soon as you can in order to report the injury, and they can usually work with the hospital in order to get your bills paid. Sorry. So for any minor ailments, pharmacies are really great in Europe because they're allowed to diagnose and prescribe a remedy for common issues. So if you have a fever or a sore throat, just common things like that, they're allowed to prescribe you medication. Some drugs that you may need a prescription for in the US, you don't need in Europe, so just check there. And some drugs go by different names and you need to take different dosages. So it's always important to read the bottle and make sure you're taking the right amount. So our Advil, you typically take 2 at a time. But in Europe, their Advil, you may only need to take 1, so you don't want to take too many and then end up overdosing. Pharmacies are also allowed to refill any prescriptions for you. And if they're not allowed to though, they can just send you to a doctor or a health clinic. So the clinics, if you don't have an emergency but a pharmacy can't help you, this is the place you're going to want to go. And it's very similar to ones in the US. You go in and you sign in with the receptionist and then you wait for the doctor to be ready for you. So the cost will either be free or it will be a small fee. And again, you're going to have to pay this up front, even if your health insurance covers it. So you're going to, again, want to get a copy of your bill so you can file a claim. So in regard to language barriers, in many European cities, a lot of people speak English. However, they always really appreciate it if you try to speak the language, so you can always bring a little phrase book with you just to learn some common phrases to at least try to use their language. I've been to Europe twice already, and both times I don't think I've ever come across a person who did not speak English. So that's really great because, then you can talk to people. But like I said, try to use some of their language if possible. If you have a smartphone, a really great app to use is Google Translate because you can put in your sentence in any language and it will translate it to any other language. You can also speak it to your phone and it will speak it out in the other language. So it's really great because you can literally just have a conversation with someone through your phone. So in regard to handicap accessibility in Europe, if you do your research ahead of time, then Europe can be handicap accessible. You want to make sure to book your hotels 8 to 12 months in advance because many hotels only have 1 or 2 handicap rooms and those will fill up quickly, so you want to make sure that you get to it before someone else does. You can also check out the area using Google Street Map View to see if they have any slopes for your wheelchair or if there's a lot of stairs. It will show you that in Google Maps Street View. You can also plan your routes ahead of time by researching the accessibility of buses, subway stations, and any accessible entrances to any of the sites you're visiting. If you're booking a tour, you also want to make sure to pick a company that does specialize in handicap accessibility. If you're in a museum and it seems to have been lacking an elevator, you can always ask for a freight elevator. They're usually not available to the public, but if you ask, they usually have one and will let you use it. Always have a backup plan. Try to think of any possible issues that may occur and then think of an alternate solution to it, just so that you're prepared for any type of situation. It may also be useful to contact any tourism offices or local transit providers before you start traveling, and some may include a lot of this information on their websites. In particular, Rome and Italy can be a really great destination for someone with disabilities. Many of their attractions, such as restaurants, hotels, have full wheelchair accessibility, and the sidewalks have the wheelchair ramps, so that's really great. European river cruises are another really great option to have because you can see all of the beautiful sights without having to leave your ship's deck. So just kind of random facts about problems that may happen with Europe. Air conditioning is not very common in both hotels and just common areas. So at your hotel, you really want to make sure that they have air conditioning. Even, once again, you don't think it's going to be hot, you want that option just in case. Both times my mom and I have made sure that our hotels have had air conditioning, which is really great because, like I said, it ended up being 100 degrees. So if we didn't have the air conditioning, that would have been bad. Even if there is air conditioning, it may not be as cool as we expect it to be here. In some cities, if it's not summer, they may legally not be allowed to turn on the air. So you also want to check that out. You can also read TripAdvisor for any reviews on air conditioning in certain areas that you may be traveling to. So for ice and soft drinks, ice is barely used as well. So if you want ice, you have to ask for it. They may look at you like you're crazy, but you must ask for it. Otherwise, you won't get any. If you do ask for it, you maybe get 2 or 3 cubes, but that's better than nothing. Also with soft drinks, they're very expensive in Europe. My mom and I have paid 18 euros for 3 sodas. So make sure if you're getting a soda and you don't want to spend that much money, only get 1. For tipping is not as common there as it is in the US because it's usually just added straight to your bill or receipt. So if it does seem like you're paying a little more, just remember that the tip is already included most of the time. So some senior-friendly places to visit in the US. First, of course, is Florida. They have really great beaches and their weather is always really good. And there's access to many different cruise ports, so if you love cruises, that's a really great place to go. Some of the great beaches on the East Coast are Fort Lauderdale or Hollywood Beach and Miami Beach. Those are all on the East Coast. And on the West Coast, some of the really great ones are St. Petersburg / Clearwater at Fort Myers and Sanibel Island. And another really great choice for seniors in Florida is Disney World. So a little bit more about Disney World, just because I'm a Disney fanatic. I've been there over 60 times, so I'm going to go in a little more detail about Disney. You can always use a travel agent that specializes in Disney World, and those travel agents don't cost any extra, so they're still free. You can go to mousesavers.com, which gives you details on how to save money, and it includes the regular hotel prices and current hotel promotions and discounts, the best off-site hotels, car rental savings. It just gives you a lot of different things, so that's a really great website to go to. And even though Disney's never really empty, the absolute worst weeks to go are the weeks before and after Easter and the week between Christmas and New Year's. Those are the most crowded times, and they're usually completely filled. So Disney also offers free transportation to and from the hotel. It's called Disney's Magical Express. And if you use special luggage tags, they'll actually pick up your luggage for you from the carousel and just deliver it directly to your room. You don't even see your luggage until you're in your hotel room. So in regard to handicap accessibility, if you're using an electric scooter or a wheelchair, it would be a really good idea to stay at an on-site hotel because you're able to rent one for your entire stay at a place such as applescooter.com. and they will deliver it to your hotel and pick it up from there. So the bus transportation will take you wherever you want to go, including your scooter. So if you have a scooter, you can use that, and it'll take you anywhere on site. And you and your party will get priority seating, so they have a separate line for the handicapped, and they are allowed to go on and get strapped in first, however they're needed, and then their family is allowed on as well. The bus drivers are really well trained and know how to handle strapping in the wheelchairs or scooters. And when you choose your hotel, keep in mind that the larger, moderate hotels, such as Caribbean Beach, Port Orleans, Port Orleans, Riverside, and Coronado Springs will have multiple stops since they're bigger. So if they get to you and the bus is full with the handicap room, then they will call for another bus to come and get you. They're really great about that. If you really don't want to worry about that though, you can stay at a value or deluxe resort, which only has one stop. In regard to rides, they will again usually allow you to go through the exit if you have a wheelchair or scooter, or most times you can honestly just go through the regular line. There's hardly ever stairs, and like I said, if there is, they'll have a separate way for you to go. Also, if you're able to transfer, then you can go on pretty much any ride in Disney, and most rides are very tame in Disney World, so you don't have to worry about getting like flipped all over or anything. Also, if you want a wheelchair or scooter just for the day, at all 4 parks in Disney, you can rent one in the front of the park, use it all day, and then drop it off at the end. So in case of any medical issues, all Disney cast members are trained in order to handle that situation. So for any issue, just alert the nearest cast member and they'll take care of what needs to be done. Disney also has first aid stations that will provide over-the-counter treatments for free, such as Tylenol, Mylana, Imodium, allergy medicine, cough medicine, Tylenol, and bandages that can all be given to you for free. They also have contact lens solution and cases, eyeglass repair kits, orthodontic wax, and sewing kits. And they will also help treat your blistered feet, which, if you didn't bring your comfortable shoes, will be a very good resource for you. Disney will also store or refrigerate any medications that you have, and they will dispose of any insulin needles that you may have. And even if you're just feeling overheated and you feel like you need to rest, Disney has that as well. So their medical service called Reedy Creek is open 24/7 and is free of charge, including the ambulance transportation to the nearest hospital. Disney also treats any emergency very discreetly, so they will form a wall of humans around you so that people aren't just looking at you get all of your private matters handled. They make sure it's very private. So for any dietary concerns, Disney is really great with accommodating to any type of dietary concern. You can have allergies, gluten-free, lifestyle choice, diabetic, etc. They're just really great with all of it. When you make your reservation, you want to make sure to note to speak to the chef or the special diet consultant when you sit down to eat. And if you or a family member have multiple issues, contact specialdiets@disneyworld.com at least 2 weeks before your trip. So Disney World also has Fast Pass, and with the Fast Pass system, you can book 3 passes per day, and if you're staying on-site, you're allowed to start booking them 60 days in advance, and if you're staying off-site, you can start booking them 30 days in advance. Fast Passes help you to avoid long lines, and they're just a lot shorter and can get you to the front a lot quicker. And once you've used them, you're allowed to start booking more throughout the day. If you don't have any Fast Passes and you need to wait in line, it's okay because most of the lines are inside where it's air conditioned, so you're really unlikely to be waiting in the heat. So some other great places to travel in the US are Hawaii, Scottsdale, Arizona, Branson, Missouri, Charleston, South Carolina, and Palm Springs, California. Other really great options for traveling are cruises, of course. So cruises allow you to do as much or as little as you want to, and it's a really great opportunity to travel with your family because if the kids want to go play at the pool, they can do that, and if you want to go play bingo, then you can do that, and then just meet up together for dinner. So everyone gets to do what they want to do. Holland America is a really great cruise line that is known to catering to senior citizens, and some other really great lines for that are Princess Cruises and Celebrity Cruises. You can always ask the cruise line in advance if they have any senior discount, or you can check the AARP website. Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and Norwegian all usually offer discounts, but sometimes it's only during certain dates. So if you really want to get that discount, make sure that you're booking your trip within the dates of the discount. Again, also just check AARP for any discounts. If you're traveling solo, you want to look into booking on a ship that accommodates to just people traveling solo, and you can avoid paying for the double room supplement. And for people with disabilities, you want to make sure to check online as to what each cruise line offers. Some may offer some special dietary concerns or will have a pool lift, so if you're in a wheelchair, then you're still able to go into the pool. You also want to consider if your ship tenders at ports, which would not really allow you to go to shore if you have a wheelchair or scooter, because with that, you're not right next to the island, you're still floating in the water and you have to transition to a smaller ship and then get brought in. So that's really inconvenient if you have a wheelchair or scooter, so you want to make sure your cruise does not do that. Also, make sure to book any handicap accessible rooms in advance because, again, there's a limited number of them and they will get booked up quickly. Carnival is a really great cruise option if you have a disability. They have accessible elevators and they also have marked routes to help less mobile passengers get around. And so some other considerations when traveling: if you like the idea of sitting with the same people every night and making new friends, then make sure the cruise you're booking does not have open seating at dinner because then you're going to be sitting with someone different every night. Also, you want to make sure to let the ship know in advance if you have any special dietary concerns because, again, they're going to be able to know that you're coming and be able to accommodate you. You also want to consider your cabin location when you're booking. If you have trouble moving around, you don't want to book something at the complete end of the ship where it's going to be a lot of walking or wheelchair rolling to get to any event that's happening. As a final note, any of your questions can be answered on travel forums, or if you want, you can comment on them down below and I'll try to get back to you guys. A really great website to do so, though, is tripadvisor.com. Even if you want to look up, you can look up questions there and see what people have answered, or you can ask your own questions. And tripadvisor.com really gives you a more specific as to where you're traveling that no travel book is going to give you. So you can ask really detailed questions and chances are they may already have been answered, or like I said, you can post it yourself and someone who has visited there may be able to answer it for you. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my travel tips and tricks for seniors. At least you can use a passport card. Everything else though, they require correct form and they must. It's also no, don't go yet. Another and the way, hold on, I'll redo that bullet point.
Just read it.
So you can always if you really don't want to worry about Disney also has first aid stations that will provide over-the-counter service treatment. And it's a 24/7 open. It's open 24/7 and it's free of charge, including your ambulance transportation to the nearest hotel.
Hospital.
Oh my gosh. Reedy Creep is Reedy Creep.
Reedy Creep will take you to the nearest hotel.
Okay. You also want to consider your cabin location when you're booking. If you have trouble moving around, you don't want to book something at the complete end of the ship where it's going to be a lot of walking or wheelchair rolling to get to any event that's happening.
Wheelchair roller. Yes, wheelchair roller.
Well, if they're alone and they have to go.
Okay. Have a bloopers.
I know, should I? So traveling also involves physical activity and exercise. I'm sorry, that's my dog. And this also, again, lowers your heart diseases risks. Hold on, I'll just redo this whole thing. Shammy has heart disease. Maybe she should travel more.
She's so great.
Okay. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog breathing. She's a loud breather and she's right next to me right now. But,